Watching my idols, Colin McRae, possible, and competing around the world and winning rallies and championships, that was something I always aspired to be. And along the journey, many people told us it was never going to be possible and it was too hard coming from New Zealand. So 20 years later to get there and actually tick that box was a hugely proud moment. When you can get into that sort of zone, like you're basically unbeatable. And that's what I think separates like the greats in sports or business to the people who are good but don't quite get that last bit. I think it's all about the flow state.
Hayden, welcome to the Bountiful Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So nice to be here.
Yeah, cold Cromwell.
Yeah.
And a cold shed full of cars.
Well, the cars are cool and the trophies, and I guess you're kind of cool.
I won't go quite that far, but yeah, it's a good place to be.
Can you share a little bit about your upbringing and background?
Motorsport has been my life ever since I was a kid. Grew up in a family, particularly my father, who was a race driver, a rally driver, and ever since I remember, I was around cars, playing with cars, racing cars. We grew up on a farm, so you're sort of driving cars a lot earlier than maybe what I should have been. And it's the only way of life that I really know is to do with cars and motorsport.
What is it about cars?
Well, it's not actually the cars as such. I'm not actually a car nut, which most people will probably be surprised about. For me, a car is a tool of a trade. For me, I love driving fast and racing. It's just that pure thrill, obviously the adrenaline. Probably the biggest thing is the challenge, but also when you put your helmet inside of a race car, it's the only time where every problem, everything in the world just disappears and you're just this complete tunnel vision and it's just you against the car and the elements and with your co-driver, of course, and it's just almost a peaceful environment to be in when you're racing.
I'm not sure other people would call it peaceful.
It's like anything though, the more you do something, the easier and the better it becomes, and that's just what I've always done in my life, so that's my happy place.
Yeah, love that. The helmet, putting your helmet on. So one of the fans, I asked the community what they wanted to ask you, and someone was like, so how do you not be a rally driver when you're in your own car, like everyday car? And so is the helmet like one of the things that kind of puts you in the zone, or is it different?
I'd say it is. I reckon you almost split personality. Like when I'm just driving on the open roads, I'm actually just quite calm and relaxed, and it's actually a chance to relax and obviously turn on some good music. But actually when the helmet goes on, it's almost like the red mist comes down. There's this really competitive edge of you comes over, and I'm a hugely competitive person. So you go into a completely different mindset, and it's all about just trying to optimize yourself and your performance, and almost looking for perfection in a sport where perfection is almost impossible. So it's an everlasting, I guess, trying to push yourself to achieve something. And
perfection is not possible because the conditions you're doing is...
it's always changing. Every corner is different. It's not like a racetrack where things are consistent. In our sport with rallying, the conditions are different from corner to corner, stage to stage, day to day. And obviously the car's always changing, and that's what keeps us on our toes.
Sounds exciting. What does it mean to you to live a bountiful life?
A life of fulfillment for me is... I've lived a strange life, shall we say. I don't live your normal life. Like I don't have a family. I've sacrificed everything for my sport, and you hear a lot of people speak about family and everything. And obviously, I've got my immediate family, my father and mother and sisters. But for me, a life of fulfillment is actually measured by success of what I achieve in business and sport. That's just where I am in life. That's what I enjoy. And for me, that's measured by winning. I'm in a professional sport, and that's measured by if you win or not. So trophies, success, for me, that is life experiences. There's a lot of trophies in here, but every single one of them's got a story, it's got a memory. The trophies itself are worth nothing, but it's what the stories and the memories that are behind each and every one of them. And to be honest, that's what I live for.
I could see trophies are family.
Definitely. Trophies and cars, I guess, in some sense. I've got my cat, actually, so he keeps me on my toes. But no, it is a strange one because I know, I'm probably just not in that stage of life, I guess. Family obviously becomes important. But as I say, when I've sacrificed everything now for, 30 plus years, it just becomes the normal. And for me, this is my normal.
I mean, the good news is you've still got a lot of time. And the other thing is that, I guess, you're living life in alignment with your own values, which is, I guess, what it's all about, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's motorsport's a strange one for me because it's actually probably what helped me to survive as a kid. You know, my younger years were not happy years between family and bullying and everything, but my only one happy spot in life was racing a car, and that was all that got me through my early years, my teenage years. So I think that's why it means so much to me, because I guess it's effectively what saved me. It's what put me in a direction where I could be successful and work towards something, because without it I was nothing. So, you know, that's why it is a part of me. It's not just a sport or a hobby, it's actually in my DNA.
What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self?
Be patient. Especially in this day and age.
It's like an oxymoron.
Yes, yeah. People always want things too quickly, and I guess society's making it even worse. But as a 25-year-old, I was wanting to set the world on fire in my sport, and was probably trying to rush things too much. And at 25, I thought I was old. Okay, now at 38, I feel I'm old. But yeah, be patient and just trust the process a little bit more.
Do you know, this is stupid, but I was thinking the other day, so I turned 34 on Wednesday, and I was like, okay, if I live till 70, then I'm halfway through my life. But if I live until I'm like 90, then I've got a long time to go.
Yeah, third.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if Elon or some of those people get their own way, we'll be living till we're like 150 in our lifetime. So
I don't know, I'm pretty excited about the future and how many years we all have left.
Daunting though, they go past too quickly as we get older.
Yeah, especially in your line of work.
Yes, too fast.
Very cheeky, but what is the fastest you've ever been?
On rallying, it's not hugely fast. I think maybe 250, 260 on gravel.
Yeah, but on gravel.
On gravel, yeah. For us, our sport's about going faster around corners, so yeah, you always want to go faster.
Yeah, and then for the people out there, another cheeky question. What's your tip for driving on gravel for us mere mortals?
Well, practice makes perfect. Often a lot of people, when you're on like gravel, it feels like ball bearings under the car, and it's very easy for the car to lose control. So obviously you always got to counter steer to correct the slide or whatnot. The biggest lesson I learned when I was actually growing up, learning to drive, was actually when you get yourself in trouble is to accelerate. And the natural instinct is if you're in trouble, you want to slow down, you want to brake. But more often than not, that makes the situation worse. So the way to get yourself out of a sticky situation is actually push the throttle down. So that takes a lot of mental courage to do that, if you like, but that's probably the biggest lesson.
Works in off-roading too.
Exactly, same thing.
Love that. So I guess you kind of alluded to this already, but part of your early story was around like being bullied, struggling with weight. I didn't know that. Mental health. What helped you shift your relationship with yourself physically and emotionally to become an elite athlete?
It probably didn't. I probably hid it. It's probably some of that stuff. Like I've found in life, you don't have to hide from stuff, and you don't have to try and find a cure necessarily for everything. For me, it's probably an element of acceptance, that I accept that I might not like myself in terms of an image, but I've learned to live with it, and that's just my normal again. So yeah, it's something I've always struggled with. Like I was 120 kilos as a kid through school, so of course you're easily picked on. But then my motivation once I got out of school and you're in a more of a normal environment, I had to lose weight obviously to race cars, and then of course when we were doing it professionally over in Europe, my job was training 2 to 3 hours a day, and then of course prepping for events. It's a little bit different now because we've obviously got the business, so you're trying to run a business as well as drive, so time's not quite as critical. So I wouldn't necessarily class it as an elite athlete nowadays. Obviously I still work on my fitness to do a good job, but for me it's about accepting who I am and not try and put up barriers, I guess.
Acceptance is really hard. Like, do you have any advice for people who don't want to accept things? And do you also think it's a phase? Like, I don't like myself in this phase, but I know that I'm going to come out the other side. Yeah,
I've definitely got things that help me. Like in my case, I know when my training's going well, I'm in a better mindset. And, physically I still look the same, but I just feel better within myself. So, pushing myself to get in routines, but then obviously when you get, injuries or, you're too busy with other things and it takes away some of that time you've got to do that, then that's when you fall into these little ruts. So, I think there is phases and it seems to ebbs and flows. And for me, I know when I'm going through down times, I know I'll come back. It's just, again, it's a little bit that patience thing of just waiting for it to come back a little bit as well. And again, accepting the thing, but it's probably not the best advice, but it's what's worked for me the best.
I'm writing down a word. A lot of what you're sharing is sort of counterintuitive to what's expected, I think. It's like patience, waiting, accepting. Like they're all things we should do, but they're not our natural inclination, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and that's the thing, there's no, in my mind, there's no two ways or no one way that works for everyone. Like it's the same with sports psychiatry. A lot of people have told me, and particularly in sport, to be successful, you need to visualize success and you need to visualize winning and being successful. For me, what actually motivates me, and it probably comes across a little negative and glass half empty, but again, I've accepted what works for me. But for me, it's the fear of losing that motivates me more than wanting to win, which is what most sports psychiatrists would tell you is the opposite. But again, it's something that I worked out works for me, and that's what I go with.
Yeah, my husband would get along. He always says that you want to be around the people who hate to lose.
Yeah, that's what motivates you more.
Yeah.
I've always it's a real bad example, but if there's someone at the other end with an ice cream or lollipop that you're running towards that you're excited for, or there's a dog chasing you, it's about to attack you, I know I'm going to be running faster from the dog who's trying to attack me than the prize at the other end type thing. So,
good example. If you could relive one rally, win or lose, just for the thrill of it, which one would it be?
It's an obvious one. It's when we won our World Championship. We've been in Argentina. There's actually a trophy sitting over there in the corner, actually. Just because that was a lifehood dream, watching my idols, Colin McRae, Possum Bourne, grow up, when I was 6, 7, 8 years old on videos, the old VHS video, competing around the world and winning rallies and championships, that was something I always aspired to be. And, along the journey, many people told us it was never going to be possible and it was too hard coming from New Zealand. So 20 years later to get there and actually tick that box was a hugely proud moment. And then, my dad was over there and some of our key supporters. So that's a day I'll never forget.
Why is it too hard coming from New Zealand?
Well, that's a good question. That's why I like to prove things wrong. But I guess we are a long way from the world. Like our sport's very European dominated. So there's not a lot of Kiwis over there. So financially it's more demanding because, even just simple things like exchange rates, our dollars, 50 cents over there. So, you almost need twice the budget. You got a lot of travel. We based ourselves over there for 8 years, but then of course you're away from family, friends, you're away from your normal culture. Everything's completely different. So that's why it is such a big sacrifice and it is hard from this part of the world, but by all means, not impossible.
So you kind of alluded to this, but so you drive in insane conditions for most people under brutal pressure. What goes through your mind in those moments?
That's probably the problem, nothing.
I knew you were going to say that.
You just get on with the job.
Yeah.
A big thing in our sport is not overthinking the conditions, and I've fallen into the trap sometimes if it's super slippery or there's a lot of rain or a lot of snow. You sometimes stress that it's going to be too slippery, and in that case, you don't perform. So actually, the best way to perform is to just trust your instincts, trust your experience. The longer you've been doing it, the better you are, type thing, and then and just back your subconscious to do the job.
It's one around sort of how you train your mind, but it sort of sounds like you've just got to settle in and let your instincts and subconscious take over.
Yeah, and I think that goes right back to what we're saying about patience, because our sport's big about time in the seat and experience. And, from 25-year-old, 13 years on, I'd say I'm actually a better driver now. I may not be as fearless as maybe was what I was when I was 25 and maybe as athletic, but I've got so much more experience now that I feel like I'm more a complete package, that I know how to put together a result. I know when to push, when to slow down. If things are not going right, I know how to mentally deal with it now or put it aside. So that's why I think the patience is key to now put me in a position to be a better driver than what I was in the past. So
is there anything you can do to train your mind? Like the prompts here are visualization, breathwork, routines, but it doesn't sound like any of those things.
Well, interesting enough, I have tried them all because I have worked with a lot of specialists and people who have helped, and I've tried them all to try and work out what does and doesn't work. Try the visualization thing a little bit. The whole blue and red mind thing is a little similar to what the All Blacks do. Probably the biggest thing is, for me, which is still relevant, is staying in the moment. Often, if you're having a good or a bad rally, your mind can start wandering off to the end result, and it's about not getting too far ahead of yourself or dwelling on the past. So for me, it's just real simple things like I might be sitting in the car on the start of the stage and I'll just start moving my toes inside my race boots and thinking about my toes and my boots, and it's just trying to bring me back to the moment. And as stupid as it sounds, actually, a really good training tool for some of that is golf. Golf I actually enjoy as a hobby, but golf's a really good sport for staying in the moment, hole by hole, even shot by shot, because it's very easy in golf when it's going good or bad. You start thinking, oh, I might have a good score, I might have a bad score, and you get too far ahead of yourself. So That's what's probably the biggest mental thing for me is staying relaxed in that scenario. I'd say the most incredible mental experience I've ever had is, again, Argentina. Basically, the situation was the 7-time world champion, who was odds-on favourite. He had taken the lead down to 2 seconds going into the final stage, and everyone, including myself, thought he was going to come past us. So we went into the stage, and I actually got angry about the situation because it wasn't just about that 3-day event. It was a 20 years journey to get there. And we had a bit of an altercation the night before, and this sort of brought out an emotion in me before the start of this last stage, going, there's no way I'm going to let you beat us. And basically I just went into this complete flow state, which I guess most sports people are trying to find with a switch. Most unreal mental experience ever. The stage was 13 minutes. It was one of the roughest stages we'd ever seen, like huge ruts, big rocks. For me, it was the easiest stage I've ever driven. It was smooth. It was like in complete slow motion, and got to the end and didn't really recall it. And it's not until you go back and watch the videos that you recall it. And that is like, when you can get into that sort of zone, like you're basically unbeatable. And that's what I guess I think separates like the greats in sports or business to the people who are, good, but don't quite get that last bit. I think it's all about the flow state.
What do you think got you into that flow state?
Well, I've tried to replicate it many times before. There's been other times when I have been in it, but for me that day it was anger.
You hate to lose?
I hate to lose to a particular person that we're fighting against, but I've tried that in the past, and because I'm not necessarily an angry person, so trying to bring out angry as an emotion is not that easy. Everyone's different, and for me on that day it was anger, but I don't think it's the same every time. I think that's the tricky thing.
How much of your decision making out there is instinct versus strategy, and how do you prepare for the unknowns like weather shifts or pace note mistakes? I
think both are key. We always have a strategy before a rally, so I'll always have a plan A, plan B and a plan C. That's based on tyres and car setup and stuff around weather variables and bits and pieces. But you always need to be adaptable as well. If you're too set in stone and during a rally things are changing and you're not willing to be adaptable enough, you just get lost. So it's a bit of a mix of both. If everything's plain smooth sailing and the weather conditions are constant and everything like that, and you stick to your plan, the rally goes really well. As I say, failing the plan is planning to fail. But then you do need to have some flexibility. If things go pear-shaped, out of your control, you need to be able to adapt to that as well. So it's a bit of both. When
I was doing my research and sort of watching some of your videos, a lot of what was coming up for me is like you have to have a phenomenal amount of like self-trust. So obviously trust in your partnership with your co-driver, but also trust in yourself. What have you learned about self-trust over the years?
I back myself in some sense, but I'm not a hugely confident person. That's something I've learned about myself, and again, I've learned to accept it. So an example of that, and I don't want to speak to sound cocky or anything, but I mean, like here in New Zealand, we have a bit of an unfair advantage because it was a profession of mine. I did it all the time. For everyone else in New Zealand, it's a hobby. So when we come back to compete in New Zealand, we had a performance advantage, and we had quite a bit of a gap. But I was never confident coming to a New Zealand rally. Even if you're winning by minutes, I'd still come to the rally worried if I was good enough, if I was fast enough. But I've learned to embrace that, because then that's my motivating factor to not relax. And then once I get into the zone and you get through the first stages, you relax and you go, okay, I do remember how to do this. And then it just flows from there on in. But I wouldn't say I've been overly confident in that respect. And whereas some other sports people can be hugely confident and cocky and talk the game and everything, and then they use that as motivation. But I'm a little bit the opposite. I tend to be a little bit more reserved and sort of ease my way into things a little bit.
When did you learn that you weren't very confident? Because it's like quite I don't know if it's rare for a sports person to be not confident, but it kind of surprises me a little bit, I think.
I've just always been like that. It's all I've really ever known. I'm confident once I'm in the game, once I'm actually driving, but the build up to an event, the preparation and everything, I've got the nerves and the butterflies like everyone has. But yeah, I'm not overly confident until we actually get started. So.
Worrying a little bit is actually a predictor of longevity, so that could be a bonus.
Right. Isn't longevity in a sport? I hope so.
No, well, longevity in life, so therefore hopefully longevity in sport. Well, the same
thing for me, sport life, it's the same thing. So.
How do you stay hungry?
For success?
Yeah.
There's never enough, I always want more. So I want more trophies, I want more success. For me, I want to build a legacy within the sport that, can stick around for a while and, set more records and win more championships. And the biggest thing for me now, what we're going through is actually about our team. For the last 20 years, it was about me and my co-driver, but now it's about actually us as a team going forward, trying to win world championships. And that's the part that probably drives me now. And we're going through this phase where it's probably similar to the start of my driving career, where a lot of people told us what we're trying to do now as a team is not possible. And again, that's motivation for me to go, well, I think it is, and I want to prove you wrong. So I'm just going through chapter 2 now. I don't know what chapter 3 and 4 are, but we're only in the middle of chapter 2 at the moment.
Question around how you train. So how do you train your body to handle the stress and focus?
Seek time. Just the more you do it, the more accustomed your body gets to it. Obviously, we work on fitness and training to be as fit as we can. The sport's very mentally draining. It's up to 60 degrees in the car when we're racing for 3 days. You're in the car for 14 hours a day, so fatigue is a big part. So trying to be physically fit so you're mentally fit, because we need to be making split-second decisions all day, every day for that 3-day competition. And just time in the seat, it just becomes more subconscious and natural. And it's been doing it for long enough now, so.
Do you spend lots of time in saunas to?
Yeah, I love a sauna. I love heat. I hate the cold. Shouldn't be in Central Otago,
why
but
are
I
you
hate
here?
the cold. I know. I love the heat any day. I guess because I've been in a hot rally car for so many years. Heat over cold any day.
There's a chapter of your story that feels, there was a bit of grief in a particular year. So losing your seat, your engagement and confidence in quite close succession. What do you think you learned from that period?
2017 was a year from hell, particularly because right up to that point, I'd say every year of my career in sporting achievements, it's sort of been ticking the boxes and my goals, and then all of a sudden 17 just completely unraveled everything, and I didn't really know how to deal with that because I hadn't, not only just one setback, it was like multiple setbacks throughout the whole year, and it just wouldn't stop. And the biggest thing for me is I actually stopped enjoying my sport. Like, it was a sport that I loved, where I live in a dream in a factory team. Everything I ever hoped for and worked towards, and I actually stopped enjoying it. And that was the real sort of light bulb moment for me to go, okay, something's wrong here. We need to get this back on track. And throughout the year, the biggest thing that I learned, looking back on it now, is I was too naive about it. I thought, no problem, I'll just get back on the horse, get back in the car in my happy spot, and it'll be fine. It'll just all work out. And I didn't perform all that year. We had a whole lot of stuff go wrong. Looking back at it, I needed to find the reset button sooner, because it wasn't until the end of the season when I come back to New Zealand, basically went off the face of the earth for a month or two. Just went to I love the West Coast, somewhere by the ocean, get away from rallying, get away from people, and then come back the following year and actually remember why I was enjoying the sport, which is, it wasn't for fame, it wasn't for money, it was because I enjoyed driving. So just go right back to basics and strip it all back and just try and enjoy it again. And that was the reset that I needed, but it took me too long to find it. And it was just about trying to, question myself a little bit more, in that time.
For anyone watching this that maybe is in a similar position in the future in maybe their own field, how do they not be naive?
I think it's really hard not to be, because when you're in the heat of the moment, you think you've got it under control, and everyone around you will say you need to talk to someone, you need support, and particularly I'm a control freak and I'm definitely a very individual person, so more often than not I'm like, no, I'm good, I've got this under control. But I think there comes times where you have to put your barriers down and actually go, okay. And that, for me, that's not necessarily talking to others. For me, it's just removing myself from everything and just switching off. And I don't like switching off because I get bored. But in those cases, you have to. So you have to force yourself to do stuff, and whatever that is that you enjoy doing, whether it's talking or removing yourself, but you just have to force it. After
the Monte Carlo crash, I guess the question I have is how did you get back in the car? Because a lot of people wouldn't have.
We're given no choice. It was my job. It was what I was employed to do. The support at the time was minimal to none. Basically, me and my partner at the time, we'd moved to Germany, so we were withdrawn from all our family and support network. Our professional team basically said, okay, Rally Sweden, which was the next rally in 3 weeks' time, you've got to be here. You're driving, obviously. Go home, get yourself sorted. I think there was one phone call or text message I had during that 3 week time inviting me out to dinner with the team management, and obviously I was in a zone where I didn't want to be around anyone, so I declined. Other than that, we were just on our own for 3 weeks and then got back in the car in Sweden. And again, I was naive. I thought I was going to be okay. It wasn't until we did the first test run of that rally And I remember after the run, turning to my co-driver John, just saying, this just feels wrong. It just feels unnatural. Like this, everything in the car just felt in the wrong position. And normally everything just fits like a glove. So I went back to the service team and said, look, the seats changed and the steering wheel, everything's different. And they turned around and said, everything's exactly the same as it was. And for me, that's when I went, okay, all right, this is obviously isn't right at the moment, but I had to force it. I was employed to do a job and I couldn't turn around and go, look, I can't drive. So I just had to fight my way through it. And it probably took 2 or 3 rallies to fully feel comfortable again. And again, that was just a time. I just had to be patient with it and give it time.
In hindsight, was there anything that could have helped or maybe would have been better for you as like a human being rather than a person with a job?
Definitely a support network. With everything that was going on personally as well, you definitely felt like you're on your own. Obviously, my dad's played a big part with everything, and he was on the phone all the time. But again, Dad and I were not hugely communicative people. Probably what you're saying about Southland men. We keep to ourselves a little bit.
Don't want a stereotype, to be clear, but like there is something there.
Yeah, definitely. But I've always been a little introverted in that sense. So, but yeah, probably looking back at it was probably around the support. It was a very, very lonely time, and I was living my dream, but my dream had become a bit of a torture on me as well. So I was trying to, you had 2 parts of your mind going, you shouldn't be complaining about this. You're in a very privileged position, but there was another part of me going, escape, get out of here. So you're just having a tug of war in your brain, basically.
I think it's really hard to break your spirit, like as a person. And what I mean by spirit is not like spirituality. I mean like your like bedrock foundation, those sorts of things. And so my question is, what have you learned about your own spirit and the parts of you that keep digging even when everything is heavy or uncertain?
I reckon I'm a fighter in some sense. For me, I hate the word impossible. And the harder something gets, the more I want to get my teeth into it. But I also get bored of the status quo. So I won't keep doing the same challenges over and over and over. Well, once I've ticked it off, it's okay, what's the next challenge? Because I'm looking, I almost want to fight for something nowadays, and I want to challenge myself or our team or whatever it might be. So I think I've learnt and the more I've got older, I've learnt that I can trust myself that I'm going to find a solution and I'm going to fight for something and I'm going to make it work. And that's why I probably trust myself and my big goals and what I want to achieve, because even though it might seem pretty far-fetched or a long way away, I believe in myself that I'll find a way.
Good segue into what you're doing now, because a lot of the stuff, like your electric rally car and those sorts of things, like is that where you're like, no, the status quo is here, I'm going to push the envelope?
100%. Like when we're a small team on the other side of the world, and particularly in motorsport when it's European dominated, as we said, we've got to stand out from the crowd. If we just continue doing the same old, then we're just going to be the same old race team in New Zealand, and we're not going to get the opportunities and where we want to go to in the sport. So yeah, the EV rally car is definitely putting your head above water in our community, if you like. It's not something that's necessarily accepted a lot, but for me, it's irrelevant what it stands for environmentally or what noise it makes. For me, in our sport, it's about technology and making cars go fast. That's my driving factor. And also pushing our team to develop new ideas and technology so we can be innovative to put ourselves in the right opportunities and places in the future where we can become a global team. And you only do stuff like that by being different. So that's, I guess, what I'm always looking for.
And then what is it about electric that inspires you?
Initially, it was just that it hadn't been done before. Someone rang me about the concept like in 2017. I laughed them off the phone because, we are petrol heads. We love motorsport because of the sound and the smell and everything. But we also, probably the most motivating factor for me is we love going fast as well. So when someone first said the idea to me, I said, no, it's stupid. But then being involved with Hyundai as a manufacturer around the world and just seeing how much money they pour into motorsport, and motorsport is the test bed for technology to then later go in the road cars. So therefore, if our sport's not relevant to the industry, our sport dies. So it hadn't been done before, and I saw it as an opportunity to go, hey, look, this is our chance. And I just love the fact that we can be innovative. There's no written rule book. We don't have to go buy the parts off the shelf. We can actually design stuff here. If Matt, our engineer, or myself have got an idea, we'll go design it up and try it. And I love that trial and error process as well. So yeah, it just opens a whole new opportunities for everything that we're doing.
And done in New Zealand.
Exactly, and rally's just getting started, so we're starting to dabble a bit now with hydrogen as well. So, and of course we're doing with a combustion as well. So the big thing with that is a lot of people think because we got an EV car that we're all pro EV, or not. I'm pro cars. It doesn't matter for me what it's propelled by, whether it's electrification, hydrogen, petrol. We just want to make cars go fast and develop some new technology along the ways.
You've been incredibly successful on the global stage from a very young age. What life maturity lessons do you have that might help other people avoid some mistakes or make the road easier for them?
I think everything you do in life, you need a good support network around you. Even though I say I'm a little bit individual, I've still had amazing people around me. Like my dad's obviously been the key person, but also, my co-driver John, we've been together for 20 years. The people that helped us with the funding, our shareholders, our investors, our sponsors. You've got to embrace the people around you, and you have to build a team network. So even in individualized sports, even though there might be one or two people in the spotlight, you need that team around you to push you forward and to help you be better and to create the opportunity. So having really good people around you is absolutely key. For me, goal setting is absolutely vital. That's all I've ever done. It's not just about 3, 5, 10-year goals. It's also about the micro goals. In sport and business and anything, it's very easily identified from the outside that the only success is measured by winning. But you can't win all the time. It's impossible. I think I've done 220 rallies in my life, and maybe 70 out of those 220 are won. There's a bigger portion that you haven't won. So therefore, my measure of success is achieving our goals, whether it be a top 5 because it's an event we have no experience on, or finishing, or when you're early, you got to sort of build your way up. And then that's my measure of success that keeps me motivated and keeps me in a positive mind. So the goal setting is also very important. And just being patient. And probably the biggest thing I learned through that 2017 era was enjoying what you do. Life is about experiences. You have to enjoy the moments, stay in the moment. We get very easy to get, sucked up in everything that's going on around us, and we actually forget how lucky we are to be doing what we're doing. And before you know it, the time's gone and you don't get to relive it. So that's probably the one regret, is that I probably didn't enjoy that time as much as what I should have.
Had a trout farmer on the podcast last season, and he said, in terms of gratitude, that people need to remember that we get to do this, or I get to do this, rather than like the inverse. Yep,
definitely. And nothing is ever always roses. To get somewhere and work hard at something, there's always going to be a lot of, stuff that we don't like doing, or bad jobs, or downs and whatnot. But for me, you need all that to balance out, to actually make you appreciate the highs and the successes even more. Because if everything's always good, then you don't actually know what feels good. So you need the bad stuff to help actually counter that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Bit cheesy or lame, but goal setting. Like, some people have massive PowerPoints and spreadsheets. Like, what is your sort of practical way of setting goals, and where do you record them and stuff?
Nowadays, it's more in my head. But when I was a kid, notebook, I used to write everything down. And then particularly with sponsors, sponsorship's been a massive thing for me in how we fund our sport. The first sponsor I approached was when I was 13, my hometown in Geraldine.
$100?
$100, that's right. $100 on the Mini, one of these Minis actually. But for me, the goal setting was very clear and important to our sponsors as well. So then it was always in our presentations of what our goal is obviously this year, what my 5-year goal is, what my 10-year goal is, and to get people on board supporting us, we needed to sell them the journey and the dream of what we're actually trying to achieve, and show how realistic it is. So it was always documented personally in a notebook, and then obviously professionally through sponsorship proposals. And then nowadays, it's obviously something I'm very clear with our team. It's important, because we're trying to do as a team, that I communicate it with all our guys here, so we all know what we're trying to achieve, because it's not just my goals now. It's collectively as a team that we're trying to achieve it.
Yeah, and it helps you stay focused as well, right?
Yep, 100%.
Question from the fans was just more around the dynamics of your legendary, was how they described it, co-driver relationship in and out of the car.
Yeah, so John and I were as good as a married couple. 20 years is a long time for a co-driver pairing, and particularly when we first got together, I think I was 18 and he must have been 45, 46. He sort of come back to New Zealand to start to live a quieter life. And we gave him a phone call going, hey, look, do you want to hop in the car with us? And I don't think neither of us thought it was going to go as far as it did. But he's been instrumental. Like, he taught me a lot of stuff in those early days when I was young, and he had a lot of experience. And nowadays, we trust each other in the roles that we do. But yeah, it's a massive trust relationship. Obviously the job that he does in the car, when he calls a flat left over a crest, I'm going left. If he actually misread it as a right, then we're in trouble. So, some people say his life's in my hands, but also my life's in his hands. So, we don't question each other. We just trust in each other. But we're also very different personalities as well. Like, we get on, we're mates, but we're not best mates. We're not on the phone every day. We're not talking every week. We pretty much just catch up when we go to rallies, and that's a relationship that we've always had.
Do you think that's actually been important, like not being best friends, apart from like when you're in the car?
Maybe that small part of separation is what keeps it, I guess, fresh in the car and keeps it, I guess, keeps us both motivated. For me, it's normal. It's all I've ever really experienced. We are working with a young co-driver, Jared Hudson, in New Zealand now, so we are bringing him up as well. But yeah, I think the biggest thing between driver co-drivers is simply trust. I wouldn't do their job, and I've seen many co-drivers drive before and are not very good. So that's why we both stick to each sides of the car.
And is there any advice on building that trust outside of like just being really good at doing your job?
I think being good at your job, time. I think over time you just learn to trust that, you know, your right hand or left hand man's got it under control, not questioning them and just backing them. You know, John, to me, he backed me when I was young. He gave me confidence that we're doing a good job and the driving was good and the pace notes were good and the results were good, and that gave me confidence in what I was doing. Okay, it was a bit hard for an 18-year-old to give a 45-year-old advice and doing a good job, so it was a little bit different in that context. But, you know, for me now, with the young co-driver we're bringing up, the big thing for me is to keep giving, you know, assurance that he's doing a good job and he's learning and I'm trying to help him. And so it's about having someone's back to make them feel confident about themselves to then build that trust relationship.
Ready for quick fire questions?
Quick fire, okay, sounds good.
What, in your opinion, is the most underrated fruit or vegetable?
Oh, no. I'd say rock melon.
Fair.
Is that underrated though?
It is, and it's
great.
really
it's
hard to
great
grow
fruit.
down here.
This is true. It's more a tropical fruit, isn't it?
Yeah. It is possible, but it's hard.
All right, I haven't tried.
Worst meal that your parents ever made you eat?
That's going to sound really bad actually. Scrambled eggs. I don't like eggs, and I remember being force-fed eggs, and maybe that's why I don't like them. So,
What do you do for protein?
meat. My food, let's just say I'm a fussy eater, so we'll leave it at that.
Word that describes your life?
Roller coaster.
What are you most proud of?
Probably our team here now, to be honest. Obviously, I've achieved a lot rally-wise, but for me, what we're just building here is a team and a business to keep doing our sport and what we love. I'm pretty proud of that.
Do you have any tenets that you live by or principles?
Loyalty and honesty. Loyalty is massive to me. To be honest, loyalty is actually what ended my WRC career because we were loyal to the brand of Hyundai, who we've been with now for 11 years. But same with some of our sponsors, we've been with some for 13, 14 years. Yeah, loyalty means everything to me. So unfortunately around the world, it doesn't mean as much to others. So it feels like a bit of a downer, I guess, when it's not, I guess, the same the other way.
Is loyalty something that people just have, or can they like work on it? It's a weird
I think you
question,
can definitely work on it, definitely, because I don't think it's something that's necessarily like a personality. I think it's something of just being a good person, and I think people take it for granted nowadays. Like the world that we live in with social media and the society, everything's rush, 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 and the grass is greener on the other side, and all this rubbish. Whereas sometimes we just don't focus on what's actually in front of us and stay loyal to the good things that we have going for us.
What's one thing that has really mattered in your life more than you realised at the time?
It'd probably have to be the WRC period, because, as I say, there was an element there where I stopped enjoying it because of the politics, the bad stuff that was going on, the results, and if anything, I wish I still had it, but we don't. So, you know, we're there for 5 years, and it didn't go quite to plan. So that's probably one of my regrets. That, you know, at the time I gave it everything, no regrets in that sense. It was 110% effort, but in that sense, wouldn't change anything. But you just wish that you still had that opportunity to be there.
And then the inverse, what's something that you thought really mattered, but realised it didn't actually matter at all, or didn't matter as much?
It's a double-edged one. Money, but the problem is you need money, especially in our sport, to do it as well. So in terms of having luxury things and good things, for me mean nothing. You know, like I don't own a house, I don't really have any cars. Everything I have always goes into the sport, because for me, experiences is what mean everything. You know, every rally, team event, everything. That's the stuff that I cherish.
What brings you joy?
Winning. I know that's bad, but for me, that's what brings me joy. I'm a very competitive person, so I love the challenge and the journey it takes to actually achieve a result and to win, and then hopefully get a trophy at the end of it.
What is something that's in your toolkit for when you're having a bad day, a bad week, or a tough season or phase?
To get back on the horse, really, to try and not mull over it too much, and just basically try and put it aside and get back in the car and get momentum. To get momentum back, you just got to chip away at it piece by piece. It's not necessarily a light switch where you go from maybe a bad spell to just winning. If you can build your way back up through, top fives, podiums, win, and just gradually do it in a patient way.
And what's your one piece of advice for relationships, friendship, connection, or anything?
Honesty, transparency, sharing your stories and your journey and your ups and downs, and generally being open. And that's coming from someone who's not open. So that's something I've learned a bit. And yeah, enjoying the moment as well. Like, every time you have family and friends or events or whatnot, actually enjoying it is a privilege and live in the moment.
And then you've got a lot of trophies. I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell me about a story about one of them.
One of them? How do you choose a story about one of them?
I don't know. Pick one that's jumping out to you today.
Well, obviously the Argentina one over the back is actually one of our worst trophies, but it was the one that we achieved the most with. So it's not quite, the one that you put right at the top. The one from Turkey actually was a very interesting trophy, simply because of the podium ceremony, because I think there's back then it was a sort of led by a dictatorship. So the president was there at the time to present the trophies, and as we get up on the podium for the president to give us the trophies, all the buildings all around the surrounding area had snipers on them. And as we go up on the podium, we're told, don't do anything with your arms, keep them by your side, don't wave, don't do anything, because you might get shot. So basically we're just up there like this, shaking the hands of the president and getting the trophy. There was no champagne spraying, there was no nothing. It was the most scary podium I think I've ever had.
Crazy. Is there anything else that you would like to say about your life or career or to anyone listening?
Probably one thing that does annoy me in this country is the tall poppy syndrome. It's been very obvious since we've been back in New Zealand over the last 5 years. We're trying to push what we do around the world, and as soon as you get to a point where it seems like you're being successful, people just want to chop you off at the knees, and often people are judging book by cover, and I hate that. We're not. People perceive that we have these massive budgets and everything's easy. Nothing's easy. We sacrifice everything to do a sport that we love, and I love the sport because it is my life, and I try to help as many people as I can and push things forward for the greatness of the sport and the people involved in it. But too often in this country we're trying to cut those sort of people down in sports, business, everything, and for me that really grates me. Why we're not actually all out there supporting. Same with Liam Lawson in Formula One. He went through a similar scenario, why we're not just backing him. We've got a Kiwi in Formula One. We should all be proud of that. Whether it's successful or not is beside the point. He got there and he's trying to achieve. So that's something that, frustrates me a little bit in this country. But again, you just got to try and put the blinkers on and stay in your lane and try and forget about it, which is what I'm trying to do now, and just focus on what we're doing.
I feel like it's a really sad indictment to be sitting across from you at the end of an interview and hear you say that. So I kind of had hoped that New Zealand had changed. And so rather than putting the blinkers on, what can we do to try change tall poppy syndrome in this country?
I wish I had the answer. I think that at the end of the day, a lot of it is about staying in our own lanes, not just us, but I think everyone. I think we all get too... we're all experts of what everyone else is doing because of social media, and we all think we know the answers, and more often than not we don't. We judge a book by its cover, but it's an assumption, and more often than not assumptions are not actually what's going on. And I think things might have been easier pre-social media, that people would celebrate success. They didn't know necessarily all the backstory, but they saw the end result and they'd give you a round of applause and send you on your way to the next one. Whereas now we see the journey because social media is a necessary evil. Like in our case, we need it because it's what helps us interact with fans and sponsors, and that's, I guess, our marketing and brand value. But there is the other side where sometimes we get too much information, the news, what to believe, what not to believe. The world's just going crazy with it all, and I think that's a big part of it all. So I think if we could all just, embrace success more of sport, business and everything, and not think too much about the backstory, and actually get behind people.
I would love to see a nation that's just a little bit more positive across the board. I know you have to report negative events and that sort of thing, but it's the Olympics is a really good example. So if you watch the American Olympics coverage versus New Zealand was a little bit negative about some of the stuff going on, rather than just being oh my gosh, all of these people have placed in their events or whatever, being super supportive. Why are you reporting it that way?
Yep. And the big, like we notice it, like when we go to Europe, it's this pure competition. The best man wins. The other teams, they'll shake your hand, they'll congratulate you, and they might give you a little stab in the back. Go, all right, we're going to be back stronger the next event. Whereas in New Zealand, if you're winning, there has to be an excuse or a reason, or it's a different mentality and a different environment, which is hard to describe. But at the end of the day, we're a small country that punches above its weight all around the world in business and sport and everything. And there's a lot of people digging deep to work hard to achieve their goals. And I think it's a minority, but often the minority are the loudest as well.
Well, I celebrate your success. So well done. Why are you laughing?
There's still more to do.
I was trying to be positive.
No. There's just still much more to do yet, you see. So I don't like to look in the past. I'm looking at the front.
One corner or one person at a time, more positivity, backing our incredible country folk to live their best life and do incredible
100%.
things.
Yeah, we've got to get behind people and support success.
Good. Love that. Thank you, Hayden, for joining me on the Bountiful podcast.
Thanks very much for having me. Thank you. You can go turn the heaters on now.